Hello, and welcome to another edition of Multiclass Mayhem. I'm your host, Witchy Mitchy, and this week we are covering the Suave, the Debonair, the Dashing Duelist. So you want to be the most debonair sword-wielding rakish swashbuckler around? You want to put one of your blades under your love interest's chin and tilt their head up for a bit of thirsty eye contact? You want to be Tequila and make her clothes fall off while still zipping around the battlefield and fighting multiple enemies at once? Well, pull up a chair, Crack Sparrow, and let me show you how to do the damn thing. This is how to build what I call a dashing duelist. It fits a pirate, a Zorro, any zippy debonair sword-wielding marshal ready with a quip and a blade, or, in this case, two. So, first things first, every single thing in this build is absolutely valid on its own. There are ways to customize it to your story, your playstyle, little 1 to 3 level tweaks here and there, changing out one or more of the feats. The subclasses are strong subclasses. There are a couple of valid choices for species in this build, and a few ways you can choose to go to further customize with background, and they all have their advantages for different reasons. They are all super valid builds to make a dashing duelist, depending on how you flavor things, but this is the one with the least amount of outright battle casting necessary. No concentration, no booming blade, no extra frills. Part of this whole thing depends on house rules. I'll recommend different things depending on how your DM runs a game. The first thing is race, or as I put it, and other fans have put it for years, and Wizards of the Coast finally caught up to putting it with 5e 2024, species. Now, if your DM, like me, gives everyone a within reason feat at level 1, you're going to go with Shatterkai. If your DM only does feats rules as written at level 1, take Variant Human. There are more feats in this build than many of my others. There are literally no ability score improvements that aren't built into feats. And it's better to have the feat toward the flavor than it is to have the species trait the Shatterkai gives you. The flavor of the mechanic is the important part. We're not here for a min-max for damage time. We're here for a min-max in order to roleplay time. No matter what you do, prioritize your stats at the beginning in the following way: Charisma, Dexterity, Strength, Constitution, Intelligence, then Wisdom. This means if you took Shatterkai on this next bit, you add 2 more to Charisma and 1 to Dexterity. So, in the point buy system, which we are now going to explain, all of your base stats start at 8, and you have 27 points to allocate to them rather than rolling for your stats. Give 8 of your 27 to Charisma, 6 to Dexterity, 5 to Strength, 4 to Constitution, 2 to Intelligence, and 2 to Wisdom. From that point, just prioritize any boost you can get to Dexterity and Charisma. That means you start at 16 Charisma, 14 Dexterity, 13 Strength, 12 Constitution, 10 Intelligence, and 10 Wisdom. Hopefully you rolled stats and they're all slightly better than this, but this is a passably balanced start with no negative modifiers. Also remember, you're gearing the mechanics towards making yourself feel the part, not gearing them towards the absolute most effective damage output. You'll have survivable damage and defenses all the way to level 20, but if you think I'm here to give you a broken damage build, you've got the wrong idea. I'm here to gear every steel-on-steel interaction toward your flourishes, your blocks, your narrow dodges, and give you the mechanic of that smooth-talking suave fox. I'm also not going to redo math constantly like I did with my investigator video, because with all of the customizable paths I'm going to review, this is going to take long enough. I'll do little recaps here and there, but this build isn't about having the broken high number for sleuthing and raiding people while simultaneously surviving the campaign. No. This is about feeling like you're actually engaging in epic swordplay with your enemy, doing acrobatic moves that most people outside of the Olympics can't pull off, and delivering one-liners while getting entangled in a star-crossed romance with the BBEG's adopted adult child who doesn't know they're adopted. The dashing duelist will serve cunt in the best way possible on Carrie Elwes flavored Dread Pirate Toast. So, second thing, because you're taking your first levels in Bard, I'm going to give you the backgrounds that gear this toward making an inkling of storytelling sense, along with ones that might generate the most interesting storytelling possibilities. So, from the Player's Handbook, you can take Criminal, and you can do the Spy variant. You can take Entertainer, which can spark a remarkable amount of story, because say you were excellent at mock battles and stage swordplay before you were needed to engage for a true adventure in real battles, or Sailor, where you can also do the pirate variant for obvious reasons. From Ghosts of the Salt Marsh, you can take Smuggler. I particularly like this one for the D&D Han Solo or Scarlet Pimpernel vibes. You can definitely sell this as an equivalent to Sir Percy Blakeney if what you smuggle is innocents condemned to death unfairly, but then turn around and give yourself some depth and moral ambiguity by charging for the privilege. From Explorer's Guide to Wildmouth, you can take Grinner. As a member of a bardic secret society fighting tyranny, this has a remarkable amount of built-in story. No matter what you choose, your first level will be in Bard, so you can choose any 3 proficiencies, no matter what, because of your class. And overall, you want the following 4 proficiencies between background and class: Acrobatics, Athletics, Deception, and Persuasion. The 5th one can be in Insight, Performance, Sleight of Hand, or Stealth, depending on how you want to gear your build. Like I said, this one is entirely customizable to your specific build and your specific campaign, and isn't just a cut-and-dry monstrosity build to throw obscene numbers onto a single stat. And for whichever way you got your feet at level 1, be it cool DM or human variant because your DM hates you, you're going to take dual wielder for that little bit of AC while holding 2 weapons. Since your dexterity mod is what really helps in determining your AC, this is effectively like getting a +2 in dex for AC purposes, as long as you're holding 2 swords. Make sure you start with twin rapiers. Now that we're getting our Prince of Persia warrior within Ahsoka Tano madness on, here's where we're at. At level 1, as a Shatterkai, you have the following for free: Blessing of the Raven Queen. As a bonus action, teleporting 30 feet a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest, so popping around the battlefield in sword fighting is even more intense. And at level 3, you are resistant to all damage while you do so until the start of your next turn. Long rest in 4 hours, free proficiency and perception with keen senses, advantage against being charmed, or advantage against ending the condition of being charmed, 60 feet of dark vision, and resistance to necrotic damage. Now, if you wind up in the Shadowfell, you become a wizened version of yourself in appearance only, so you look older and less hot. As a variant human, you have a shitty DM, but you stay hot despite the plane of existence. You have your highest stat in Charisma and the second highest stat in Dexterity, and you have proficiency in both of those saving throws. You have Bardic Inspiration with a D6 as many times as your Charisma modifier, which is why you bumped your highest stat into Riz. You have the aforementioned proficiencies: Acrobatics, Athletics, Deception, Perception if you chose Shatterkai, Persuasion, and a 6th one that you chose for mechanics or flavor of your character. And we keep going in Bard to level 2, where we pick up Song of Rest, which can be useful in terms of incentivizing taking short rests. Strangely, one of the least utilized things in 5e, despite WotC's tireless attempts to make it relevant. Now, what I would do as a DM with Song of Rest is add a mechanic that if you did it at the end of a long rest, it grants temporary hit points equal to your Bardic Inspiration die, but that's just me. It would make Song of Rest actually useful because next to no one takes short rests, unless your party is Warlock heavy or attuning to magical items all the time. As an optional feature, you gain Magical Inspiration, which allows people who cast healing spells to add your granted inspiration die to the total HP the spell heals. And you gain Jack of all trades, allowing you to add half of your proficiency bonus to any skill check in which you are not already proficient. At 3rd level, you gain Expertise, allowing you to double your proficiency bonus for 2 of your already proficient skills. Straight off, I'd throw this into Acrobatics and probably Athletics. But the second one isn't going to matter as much because you're about to get another expertise from multiclassing at around level 11 and it doesn't stack. I'd say between the 2 first expertises, buff the 4 initial skills: Acrobatics, Athletics, Deception, and Persuasion. Level 3 is also where your Blessing of the Raven Queen gives you resistance to all damage when you teleport until the start of your next turn. You also gain your Bardic College, and you're going to take Swords Bard. It'll give you the following: proficiency with medium armor and the scimitar. Now you have a choice here momentarily between 2 feats. It depends on how you want to play it. If you want to switch to 1d6 scimitars and go down in damage, or stick with your 1d8 rapier. For the sake of this build, we're sticking with the rapier, especially since you're supposed to be getting your Zoro on, and that's just better for flavor anyway, since basically every Zoro has either used a rapier or a saber. But hey, medium armor is cool. The choice between rapier and scimitar only matters at level 4 when you take your next feat, but we'll get to that. At level 3, the Swords Bard gives their staple class feature of Flourishes. If you take the attack action as part of your turn, you can move an extra 10 feet, and if your attack hits, you can choose one of 3 flourishes that apply to that hit, allowing you to expend a use of Bardic Inspiration. Defensive Flourish. Your inspiration roll is added to both your damage for the attack and your AC until the start of the next turn. Slashing Flourish. Your inspiration roll is added to your damage and does that amount of damage to any other creature you see within 5 feet of you that you choose. Global Flourish. Your inspiration roll is added to your damage, and your roll plus 5 is how many feet you can push your enemy away from you. Then you can use your reaction to move up to your walking speed to any space within 5 feet of that creature. Though I feel like getting out of melee is probably the goal of this, I do suppose you can always use it for battlefield control to rush someone and move in on them in a sword fight. Now here's one of the customized choice points. You can take a 4th level in Bard, or you can stop here and just take all of your remaining levels deep into Swashbuckler Rogue to get all of the subclass features that stop at 17. We're not going to do that in this build because we're still going to stick to gearing to the overall feel of the mechanics to do a full-on epic sword fighter, but it's entirely valid and you can take most of the same feats and or apply ability score improvements. But you might have to skip 1 or 2 because we give ourselves extra by how we level up. The 3 and 17 balance was actually my initial idea for this build before realizing just how much we can mess with to create the most stylistically appropriate build for this sort of character. Again, it's entirely valid. So stay tuned for the feats and their ability score improvements, and that's all going to be the same even if you go that route. This is especially fine for your build if you always plan on using 2 weapons at once. But for our purposes, we're going to Bard level 4, and we're going to stop off at our feats again, and this is where choice of weapon matters. If you took the hit to damage output and switched to scimitars, still not sure why you did that, but hey, you do you, you'll take Slasher. If you kept your rapiers, you're going to take Piercer. They do the same thing depending on the damage type of your weapon. Rapiers are piercing, scimitars are slashing. When you score a critical on a creature, you roll an extra damage die of the type dictated by your weapon. as per the name of the feat. And when you hit them at all, you can re-roll one of the damage dice of your attack, but you have to use the new roll for better or worse. This also gives you a +1 to strength or dexterity, and you're going to put it directly into dexterity. This is why we went charisma first. A lot of our feats let us continue to pump points into dex. This will leave you with 3 bard cantrips known, 7 bard spells known, 4 level 1 spell slots, and 3 level 2 spell slots. I'm not going to talk too much about the magic here, because we're going to be incredibly martial heavy in combat and not want to rely too much on actually battle casting. And while I don't really want to tell you Blade Ward is a good cantrip to boost this, I feel like I need to, but I want to tell you to take Friends, Prestidigitation, and Vicious Mockery because they're more tone appropriate. And this build, much like our others, is all about the flavor. Again, you can drop one of them for Blade Ward, but honestly, I wouldn't. I'm going to try to balance your spells against your slots here so that you can just do them all once per long rest without having to think too hard. So, for 4 first level, Charm Person, Disguise Self, Heroism, and if it's not banned at your table, Silvery Barbs. If it is banned, just take Command. For your second level spells, take Calm Emotions, Gift of Gab, and Suggestion. Obviously, I skipped over these as they came up, but go back and insert them as you level up at your leisure. It doesn't really matter what order you take them in, because they are all more socially geared toward making you the dashing and clippy side of a dashing duelist. For this build, we're not going to take a 5th level in Bard, which gives you a bump to your Bardic Inspiration die, making them a D8 instead of a D6, and giving all of the uses back to you on a short rest. And we're definitely not taking a 6th level in Bard, because this is another place to make a choice. If you're like me, and you don't really anticipate going into battle without both blades, you can take that 6th level for extra attack from the subclass and gain Counter Charm, which is only really useful for other people, especially if you're a Shatterkai. Then you would go hard into Swashbuckler Rogue for 14 levels. But again, we're building the ultimate sword fighter. We're not interested in ultimately making me happy as a player of Baldur's Gate or keeping things simple. We are gearing an entire character toward making you feel like the master of the sword who engages in epic sword fights around your actual or digital table. And what's the second word in sword fighter? That's right, fighter. For our 5th level, we're going to take our 1st level in fighter. And for our 1st level in fighter, we get our 2nd fighting style. And we're going to take dueling. You're now as adept with 1 blade as you are with 2, at least to the tune of +2 to damage rolls when you're stuck with 1 sword instead of both. You also get Second Wind, which is 1d10 plus your fighter level as a bonus action once per short rest. You'll also take your next level in fighter and get cozy because you're taking 6 levels here. For your 2nd level in fighter, you get Action Surge, allowing you to take an extra action on a turn once per short rest. And at level 3, you get Proficiency with a set of Artisan's tools of your choice. Do what you want with that. And more importantly, you get your martial archetype. You could stop here, or at the next level, and go 13 or 14 levels into Swashbuckler Rogue, still managing to pick up the level 13 subclass feature, but you'd miss out on a feat or an ability score improvement, and Fighter's extra attack. Those will come in more handy and make you feel more the part of a dashing duelist. Again, we want you to feel like the ultimate dashing duelist. There is one and only one way to do this. Battle Master. The Battle Master gets 4d8 superiority dice that you can expend one of to do maneuvers, which is another nice way to say I do a fancy move. For these 4 uses for short rest, you expend one of the d8 to use the move. You get 3 maneuvers, and you get more uses and more maneuvers at higher levels than we're going to go to, but it doesn't scale as well as you'd think, getting extra uses and extra maneuvers here and there as you level up. You're going to take these 3 maneuvers, if anything, just to say fancy sword words. Parry, riposte, And for your third, I'd say take Disarming Attack, just so you can feel cool knocking swords and whatnot out of your enemy's hands. But if you're going against more monsters than armed assailants in your campaign, Lunging Attack will give you some extra reach and let you get that little move where you lunge forward with your rapier for a little more stabby stab action. Statistically, parry allows you to reduce incoming damage by one roll of your superiority die, so 1d8 plus your dexterity modifier. Riposte allows you to counterattack when a creature misses you, adding your d8 superiority die to the damage on a hit. And Disarming Attack allows you to expend a superiority die to attempt to make your opponent drop an item of your choice from their hands, not necessarily their weapon, in case you're trying to steal a MacGuffin or keep them from being able to take a potion or use a scroll. On a hit, you add the superiority die to your damage roll, and your opponent has to make a strength save against your maneuver save DC, which is 8 plus your proficiency bonus, plus either your strength or dexterity modifier. And as it's your choice, and since we've prioritized dexterity and will continue to do so, we're going with that one. If you took Lunging Attack instead, you'd add 5 to your attack's range, and on a hit, add your superiority die to the damage. Again, you can stop here, or even at the next level, and you'll still get your level 13 subclass feature of Elegant Maneuver, using a bonus action to give yourself advantage on your next athletics or acrobatics check if you make it on that turn. But as that's incredibly situational, and also very finite and being limited to the turn itself, it's not quite as useful as you'd imagine, unless your DM sets you up for the alley-oop shot, and you know to take it. Would I, as your DM? Absolutely. But during encounters and traversal to your abilities is something I actually have learned to look at, and balancing that with everyone else can get challenging. In short, will every DM? Hell no. Considering story is 90% of the job if you're doing it right as a DM or a player in a campaign running from levels 1 to 20, and considering mechanics is secondary, sometimes a mechanic gets lost in the shuffle. If you stopped here, you could also get Blind Sense at Rogue level 14, which is, again, highly situational, and that's why we're going to go forward in Fighter instead. At our 4th level in Fighter, we are allowed to take another feat or ability score improvement. We're going to take the Tough feat to give ourselves the ability to tank a bit of that incoming damage from our various opponents going forward, especially magical area of effect attacks that are a little hard to block with a sword. As a martial, tanking a little damage is pretty helpful. Our 5th level in Fighter gives us extra attack, allowing us to attack twice, rather than once if we take the attack action during our turn. Coupled with our action surge, that gives us a maximum of 4 attacks per turn. Our 6th and final level in Fighter gives us an extra ability score improvement, a fun bonus of the Fighter class. And we're going to take Defensive Duelist, which allows us to add our proficiency bonus to our AC as a reaction, as long as we have a weapon we're proficient in within our hands. Not only are we tanking more damage, but we're also not getting hit as often. So suck it, bad guys. To review, before we settle into our 10 levels of Rogue, for those of you who really want to keep score with our earlier point buy stats and everything we have, and if your DM was cool, we've taken 4 levels of Bard and 6 levels of Fighter as a Shatterkai, with 1 feat at level 1, and only feats where we were granted them by leveling up, ultimately giving us 18 Charisma, 16 Dexterity, 13 Strength, 12 Constitution, 10 Intelligence, and 10 Wisdom. Proficiency in Acrobatics, Athletics, Deception, Perception, Persuasion, and 1 other stat with expertise in 2 of them. A 30-foot teleport with resistance to all damage until the start of your next turn that you can use a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. That same long rest only takes you 4 hours. Advantage against being charmed. Resistance to necrotic damage. 60 feet of dark vision, 3 uses of Bardic Inspiration, Charisma modifier, that you can put towards the 3 types of Swords Bard flourishes that are regained on a long rest. 4 uses of Superiority die that you can put towards the 3 types of maneuvers that are regained on as little as a short rest. Half of your proficiency bonus added to all skills that you're not already proficient in. +1 to AC while wielding 2 weapons, and the ability to add our ability modifier, aka Dex, to the damage on the second attack while attacking with them. The ability to attack up to 4 times in one turn between action surge and extra attack, and increase to our speed by 10 every time we make an attack as the action on our turn. The chance to make enemies drop something, including their weapon, with this arming attack. A bonus 2 points per level in HP to this point and going forward. The ability to re-roll one of our damage die if they suck. Medium armor proficiency. The cantrips, Friends, Prestidigitation, and Vicious Mockery. The spells, Charm Person, Disguise Self, Heroism, Silvery Barbs, Calm Emotions, Gift of Gab, and Suggestions. And 4 first-level spell slots and 3 second-level spell slots to use them. The Fighter's Second Wind gives us 1d10 plus 6, our fighter level, back in HP as a bonus action. The ability to reduce incoming damage with parry. The ability to counterattack on an enemy's miss with a riposte. The ability to add our proficiency bonus to our AC upon being hit as a reaction, possibly turning their hit into a miss. And, just as a miniature bonus, we're proficient with a set of Artisan's tools. And we are only at level 10. We did it. We took the 2 smaller classes to where we're going to take them, and it's smooth sailing into Swashbuckler Rogue with Thieves and their ASIs being the only variation in choices from here on. We are now level 11 in our Dashing Duelist, and this multi-class mayhem is about to round out in Rogue. With our first level, we gain expertise in 2 of our main 4 proficiencies. We didn't take them from Bard at level 3. Don't worry, we'll get 2 more in 5 levels, meaning we've doubled all of our proficiencies unless you want to throw one of these on the new proficiency with Thieves' tools or Artisan's tools, instead of that undefined ability that you customized that, so far, hasn't really mattered to this build at all. We get Sneak Attack at this level, giving us an extra 1d6 to our damage when we have advantage, or if an enemy of that creature is within 5 feet of us. At level 2, we gain a Cunning action, allowing us to dash, disengage, or hide as a bonus action. At level 3 in Rogue, our Sneak Attack becomes 2d6 instead of just 1. We might get Steady Aim if our DM is allowing the optional Cautious rule. Rules as written, it's just giving yourself advantage if you don't move. This could be interesting if you're locked in a sword fight with an enemy where neither of you is trying to give up ground and you haven't had to chase them. It would give you your sneak attack damage as well as advantage on the attack roll itself. Stack that with a flourish, maybe a maneuver, your action surge, and your extra attacks, and you're sticking them with the pointy end more times than Arya Stark. You also get your roguish archetype at this level. That's right, baby, we're officially swashbucklers. Our first level into the subclass gives us fancy footwork. That means if we melee attack an opponent, we can run away without fear of provoking an attack of opportunity. Does this make Cunning Action Disengage moderately to semi-useless? Yes. Is it awesome? Because not only can we bonk attack an enemy, possibly shoving them back 6+ feet, and run away to the tune of an extra 10 feet, plus dash as a bonus action. Yes. Yes, it does. And we absolutely can. You also gain Rakish Audacity at this level, which does 2 things. It gives you a bonus to your initiative rolls equal to your charisma modifier, which is then +4 this entire game, you smooth bastard. And it gives you sneak attack damage without advantage, given that you don't have disadvantage. You are within 5 feet of the creature, and no other creatures are within 5 feet of you. Normally, I would assume this means hostile creatures, because if your party is also within 5 feet of the other creature, you still get sneak attack. However, if you are 3 feet from a creature in one direction, and 3 feet from your party member in another, rules as written, you'd still need advantage because you somehow weren't isolated isolated enough for roguish audacity, and your party member wasn't close enough to the creature to give you a sneak attack. As a DM, I find that stupid. I would have put the word hostile in that description, but it does have that note of final showdown with the dark version of me, so maybe it's not awful. At Rogue's 4th level, we get another ability score improvement or a feat, and I'm actually going to say to take Tavern Brawler. You'll put the ability score improvement from this feat into strength, rounding you out to a nice +2 to your modifier by making the stat 14 and giving you proficiency with improvised weapons. You are now absolutely terrifying. Stopping you is next to impossible if your hands fit around anything within reach. You don't even need to have swords in your hands. You could literally break the legs off of the chair, dual-wield broken bottles, and your unarmed strikes use a D4 for damage. Anything that requires you to be wielding a weapon with which you are proficient still applies to random objects. And because of this, you are an absolute fucking nightmare. If you get arrested, you could pickpocket the keys off of the guard, purposely get caught, and use them to scramble his brains before letting yourself out. Our 5th level in Rogue now gives us another sneak attack die, making it 3d6, meaning if you don't get caught in the previous scenario, you can jam the key through the back of your guard's neck while he's turned around and sever the spinal column at the base of the brain. This level also gives us Uncanny Dodge, causing an enemy's attack to only do half damage on a hit. Though, if it hits us at all with all of our various ways of avoiding it, we've done something wrong or gotten attacked in our sleep. At 6th level, we get yet another expertise, and at this point, do whatever the hell you want with it. Want to double your proficiency with certain tools? Cool. Want to double them with the remaining 2 skills? Also great. It doesn't matter, you're overpowered as fuck. At 7th level, we get another sneak attack die, putting us at 4d6. And all of our various expertise puts those skills at a fat +12. Rogues, huh? We also gain evasion to have or negate area of effect damage entirely. At 8th level, instead of an ability score improvement, we're going to take the athlete feat. We're going to put the feat's built-in ASI of +1 directly into dexterity, making the stat 17. We can make our running jump at half of the distance, here being 5 feet instead of 10. We can kick up from prone at a cost of 5 feet rather than half of our movement, and climbing costs us nothing extra. At our 9th level in Rogue, we get our final boost to sneak attack die, putting us at 5d6, and you gain your last subclass feature, Panache. Panache allows you to make a persuasion check, +4 from charisma, and +12 from expertise, giving you +16 as a starting point against another creature's insight. If you succeed, and it's hostile, it has disadvantage if it attacks anyone other than you, who at this point, let's be real, you virtually can't be hit by anything less than a Tarrasque, an Ancient Red Dragon, Vecna, or honestly, your exact opposite. And honestly, kudos to the DM for building a dark villainous version of you. This ending sword fight should be epic, and the creature in question can't make opportunity attacks against any creature except for you. Trouble is, if you're the one smacking it in the face, this remains in effect, so you can continue to use your fancy footwork to smack it and dance out of reach without provoking that attack. If you succeed and the creature is not hostile, it's charmed by you for up to 1 minute, given that you or your party don't harm it, and while charmed, it considers you a friendly acquaintance. Now, at our 10th level in Rogue and our 20th level overall, we have several choices we can make. If you've stuck with my build this far, you've seen me take feat after feat, and we could abandon this for an ability score improvement, but at this point we'd wind up with an odd number somewhere no matter what, which would make some of our previous choices kind of a waste. We could take a number of feats that don't give us a boost to any ability score. Lucky comes to mind as a good one. Or we could do what I'm going to do with this build, which is pick one that rounds out part of the flavor we've been missing since the start. Gunner. Gunner gives us a +1 to dexterity, taking that stat to 18, taking its modifier to +4, and giving us a proficiency with firearms. That's right, we can now wield pistols with nearly the same deadly accuracy as blades, ignoring their loading component and not having disadvantage at point-blank range. Need to blow things up at a distance? Boom, gun. Need gun? Boom, gun. Avast to be hearties, we're setting sail for adventure, and this last little flintlock bonus has us locked, loaded, and ready for high-stakes sword-wielding, swashbuckling, schmooze-tastic good times, making us hardcore at range and an absolute nightmare up close. Personally, I'm taking the smuggler background with this build, and now I just want to go play it at somebody's table. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Please comment below any type of character you'd like to see us build out using canon stuff in the comments below. And rang-a-dang that little notification bell to stay up to date with all our latest videos. And we'll see you next week with more mayhem.